Hello, sports fans, and welcome to the Press Box. It's Tuesday night. We're going to be here for 30 minutes talking sports. I'm your host, Jeff Richardson, and I'm joined by the usual cast of suspects over here, Ty and Jay. How you guys doing tonight?
Hanging in there.
All right. Well, let's before we get started, this is a live show, and you're welcome to call in with any comments, 873-6713. Let's go ahead and dive in, Ty. The Atlanta Knights seem to be struggling a little bit. They dropped 2 this weekend.
Right, and Jeff, when I look at this club, they've given up a lot of goals lately. And when you look at the schedule, with the way the IHL schedules games, you're going to have a lot of games packed into a weekend. You may play 3 nights in a row. When you do that, you're going to have to depend on backup goaltending. Green Lake played over the weekend and gave up 6 goals in one game to San Diego Saturday night. They're going to need improvement in that area because they are in a very tough division. They're in the toughest division, and they could find themselves in 3rd place like they are right now at the end of the year.
Yeah, I think that after the first week they needed offense. We commented on the show after their first week of their season how they were using defensemen to score goals and shootouts. Mm-hmm. And I think Gene opened it up a little bit and tried a run-and-gun type styles last week, and it just doesn't work. They need to go back to the digging in the corners, clutching and grabbing, and holding the score down, especially since their goaltending stinks.
Yeah, I think they do have a bunch of good young defensemen on the team this year, and they probably need to gel a little bit. We're about halfway through the season before they really start playing well. And, Ty, you did mention the backup goaltender, Greenlay, I think had a very bad night Saturday night, and that may have carried over from Friday night. The team wasn't supporting him.
No, they weren't. The defense a lot of times I thought was lackadaisical and just couldn't clear the puck out of the zone. And whenever you let a good team like San Diego keep the puck in your zone, bad things can happen for you. And with the schedule, Jeff, it doesn't get any easier. That team's got to travel up to Milwaukee, I believe, on Wednesday night and play there again.
And for the audience, they are on TV tomorrow night. I think it's Channel 69 against Milwaukee. And then San Diego is back here in town for 2 games this weekend. So get out and see some hockey. It's a great sport.
Yep.
All right, well, let's go ahead and change to college football, our favorite topic. And, of course, there was a big ball game Saturday that we're not real happy about around here.
No, we're not. And when you sit there, the first thing that you need to talk about is the call. Jeff, I think this is a situation where the referees, I think no matter what decision they made, were going to hurt a team one way or the other. First of all, I really don't like the idea of having a play start and then blowing a whistle and having a play stop. In the explanation from the SEC officials in the paper today, here they are saying that, well, basically what you have to do is read people's minds almost. In his mind, they said that he had thought that there was a timeout, so here it is. He calls a timeout well after a play had started. I mean, what he is telling you in the rules is that it is okay then to sit there, and if someone's running on for a touchdown, 80 yards or something, you can blow the whistle and say, I thought someone called timeout, and stop the play. That's the interpretation I got from the SEC people over there in Birmingham. And I wasn't impressed. I think they blew it, and they're really trying to cover it up.
All right, Jay, you're itching to get in here. Let's hear it.
There wasn't that much lag time between the timeout and the whistle. Like, the player wasn't running down the field. But on the replay, it was close, okay? And I just think the official awarded the timeout and then blew the whistle. That's what it looked like. And so, naturally, the play started before the whistle blew. I just don't think you can't get down to one play in a football game like that. A football game lasts 60 minutes, and when you put yourself in a position, the same thing happened in the Falcon game. They were complaining about a call costing them the game. You can't put yourself in a position where one referee's call cost you the game. You should have been ahead by that time or have made the score before the official could take it away. There is a controversy on the play. I mean, don't get me wrong, and I probably would have let the play go if I was the official on that side of the field since the whistle hadn't blown for the snap. But in the replay, I think it did look like he was going to award the timeout, but they used those ring whistles. So, from the time he called timeout to the time he blew the whistle, the ball was snapped. So that's what made the play kind of weird. But they still had 2 more chances, to win the game. And I just thought Georgia played great. They played over their heads.
I think it was probably the most exciting or entertaining college football game I've seen in a long time.
Oh, yeah.
But to get back to the comment the SEC made, I think I would have rather seen them just make a comment that the game's over and the call stands and the referee made the right call instead of saying, well, it was on his mind and he didn't blow the whistle in time. Why go to all that trouble? I think you opened a can of worms there.
Yeah, I agree.
You may have given some officials down the road the power to decide a ball game here and there.
I'll go for that. Again, I just think that these people put themselves in a bad position. and really did not do that good of a job explaining themselves to the media. Jeff, you're right. I think the less they said, the better.
Right. All right, let's go on and talk about some possible changes for the Bulldogs lineup next year. You think Eric Zier is going to hang around?
I think it's very possible that he could leave early. I just see this club, unless some coaches can come out and show that they're going to make dramatic changes. First of all, Eric Zier, his stock is going up. And for his stock to improve next year, Georgia's got to win football games. And for Georgia to win football games, I think they have to make improvements on their defense and give Eric Zier more chances to get his hands on the ball and run that offense, because if he's going to be there next year, it's his show again, and he's got the receivers to do it, and the offensive line is a little suspect. That may hurt Georgia's chances.
Also, I think you need to bring up the fact that he's a good student and he's gone to summer school and he is going to graduate in the off season. So he has to come back to take a postgraduate course in order to play on the team, which, I don't know if it's going to weigh into his decision, but somebody that's graduated from the university coming back just to play football, I don't know. At the beginning of the year, I would say no, he's coming back for another year. But now it looks like if they make a coaching change, he may not want to go through the coaching change, and he may come out. He may not be a top draft pick, like first pick in the first round, but he's a pretty darn good quarterback, and I could see him playing in the NFL with his arm.
Well, from what I've heard on the talk shows and stuff, it seems like he's probably going to be a third or fourth rounder, and he's going to be picked to back up and be an understudy for 3 or 4 years.
He still gets $1 million a year to do that.
Well, and not in the third or fourth
I don't
round.
know
They've got
about
a salary
that.
cap on there now.
You'll see. They'll give him. If a team has chosen him to be their backup quarterback and understudy, they'll give him the money he wants.
I personally think he's probably already decided that he's leaving. I think the money is going to be too good to pass up, and I think he's taken a beating earlier this year and probably wants to get out of there as quick as he can.
If he does that, you can't blame him. The only thing I think that would hold him there is that if maybe some changes were made on the defensive personnel. And, Jeff, you go to those Bulldog meetings, and you talk to the influential people over there. And what do you hear? Are there going to be any changes over there?
Well, as far as head coaching changes, I think Ray is going to hang around for at least one more year. But I believe they've already decided to change up the defensive coaching staff. And I think Richard Bell has probably been relieved of his duties already. The defense is playing with a lot more intensity, and they're using better schemes the last few games. And Frank Orgel or somebody up there may be calling his defenses already, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Maybe trying to save his job.
Right.
We noted that on the show in the early season that the linebackers weren't getting in position to make tackles, and I think Davis was all over the place Saturday. He must have made 20 tackles.
Yeah, he played well, and Bill Rosenberg played a great game.
Well, Rosenberg and Matt Storm finally starting to develop a little bit. They say it may be because the weather's cooled off and getting more Washington-like weather down here.
I guess so.
Jay, you mentioned some other coaching. You mentioned coaching changes. Let's talk about some other schools that may be going through some changes here in the off season. Maybe Clemson, for example.
Right. There have been rumors around, Jeff, that Clemson is looking around. Now, the only thing that may be holding them up is that Danny Ford is still on the payroll, I believe. And then also you'd have Ken Hatfield on the payroll. From what I understand, the people over there at IPTAY really like Bobby Ross, and he's not happy in the pros right now. I think you may, if you see some type of movement from over there in South Carolina, I think you may see Clemson make a move. And also, staying in the Palmetto State, South Carolina, I know, can't be happy either. I think Sparky's had it, and they may be looking for a guy like Dick Sheridan to come back and coach back at his home state.
I think Dick Sheridan's very much in the picture there. Jay, you heard anything?
I think that Clemson probably will change coaches, but they're not going to get Bobby Ross. I've heard that he's happy in San Diego. He struggled the first part of this year, but he struggled last year. If you remember, he started 0-4 and won the division. And the San Diego people are very happy with him. You know, that first of the year there was a rumor saying that, yeah, he's a college coach, he's over his head. But he's stuck to his program, and they're coming around, and that division, he has a chance to win the division anyway. And so I don't see Ross leaving and coming back to Clemson. There was a rumor saying that he was there on an off week. Well, that wasn't true. They pinpointed him back.
Another one of those airport sightings there?
Yeah.
Mike Ditka hadn't been up there lately, has he?
No, I don't think Mike Ditka go to the college coaching job.
Well,
but that's the thing to do, though. You know, like Walsh went back to Stanford, and you just don't know. I guess there's less pressure,
yeah, but
more money.
Ross probably want to put a Super Bowl ring or two on before he takes off like Walsh does.
Sure. He's not the genius that Bill is.
All right. Well, I think we have our first phone call of the night. Caller, you're on the air.
Hello?
Hello. Go ahead.
Hello there.
Yes, go ahead. Do you have a question?
Yes, what do you think of Glanville, and do you think we should fire him now or should we wait till the end of the season? I think it's the Atlanta fans are frustrated, and they just heads need to roll, basically.
Okay, thanks for the phone call,
All right.
Jay. I think that Glanville is going to stay here for the rest of the year. And the only way he could really have saved his job is to win some really big, crucial games down the stretch after they had this little 2-game winning streak. Maybe to pick off San Francisco and Cleveland at home and to win a few games on the road and come somewhere close to 500. And not even get into the playoffs, but if he salvaged a 500 record, maybe he could have saved it. But if you lose at home to Tampa Bay, I mean, I wouldn't tolerate that. I mean, I've already made up my mind by now. We basically made up our minds earlier that we thought he would stay the rest of the year, and then you would just go ahead and make your changes then.
Yeah, it's rare. I don't think the Smiths will change in the middle of the year like this. They're too money conscious. Actually, they're like Jack Benny. so they won't make the change. But the caller asked, do we think that change should be made? And like I agree with Ty, yeah, Glanville has worn out his welcome here, and he's proved over and over again that he's outcoached. You can't tell me that Tampa has better talent than the Falcons. It's just that they were flat, and that's the coach's fault right then and there. They won 2 games. They started talking about in the in the week before the game how after Tampa they had an off week and they'd be 3-5. You can't talk like that in any sport. You have to play the game. You have to go out there. You have to prepare the team to play. And just coming back, Glanville's always, oh, we had a miraculous comeback, whatever. Well, that's BS because, they shouldn't have been down 31-3 to an inferior team.
Bottom line, they lost.
Yeah.
I want to dredge up an old rumor that we talked about a few weeks ago, and that is the fact that the Falcons may be on the sale block, the actual franchise, at the end of the year, and the Smiths are going to stay put with where they are right now, let the new owners make a decision on the new coach.
That's possible, and also if you do that, I mean, if I'm a new owner and if I take over that club, I would tell the Smiths that not only to make changes with your coaches, but hey, I'm going to come in there and I'm going to get a new general manager or a vice president who knows what he's doing and knows football, and then have him pick his coach, someone who who they could agree on with the same philosophy, and looking at the draft and finding players that can actually do something for your football team 2 or 3 years down the road instead of having to run them off because you found out that you don't know how to evaluate talent.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, we have another phone call. Caller, you're on the air. Hello, are you there?
Hello?
Hello, are you there? You have a question?
Hello?
Caller, you're on the air.
No, I'm not.
Yes,
Yeah,
you
you
are.
are.
Okay.
Oh, I am.
Go ahead.
Senior watches. Yeah, I'd like to back up what the guy just said. They need to get rid of Glanville. He's useless. And I really think that they don't need to wait until the end of the season. I mean, if you're going to make the change, why waste the time and bring in an entirely new system? Why not go ahead and get someone new in right now while you can start to implement a system, and when the players come back for spring training as well as training in the summer, they can go ahead and hit the ground running and not have to waste a bunch of time learning a new system.
Okay.
Two factors. One we just touched on, that Smiths might be selling the team, okay? If they're selling a team, they won't make a change. They'll stay with this, sell the team, let the new owners do it. Second thing is, if they would have made the change, they would have done it the day yesterday because there's a bye week, okay? So I think the fact that nothing's happened is showing that Glanville's here. They're going to tough it out with him, and it's just going to be another Marion Campbell, Pat Pepler kind of year. So
I
so
think
I know
money's an issue also.
yeah, and what's gonna facilitate the change, I guess, faster would be if the fans stop going to the games, and they've already stopped.
Well, I think they've already done that, haven't they?
Yeah,
Yes,
well,
they
there's
have.
still 50,000 people in the dome. Okay.
Well, regardless, I mean, that's still not paying the bills too well. I mean, if you think about it, I really don't think the Smiths will sell the team. That's what really has defined that family in Atlanta. And they've held on to that team for so long, through thick and thin. Why are they going to get rid of it now when they've got a pretty decent deal with the dome and having it built? I don't think they're going to waste their time in selling the team. Again, I think they've got too good of a deal. I just don't see them selling. But I wish that, they would get the picture, the fact that 20,000 people decide not to show up for a game, and they're in a new facility, and they got a lot of talent, and they're pretty exciting to watch. But, this schmuck on the sidelines with a big hat on and the big belt buckle's worthless.
Well, when
I
they
think it's a
stop
picture.
when they stop selling all those season tickets, that'll definitely constitute changes with the Smith family. Thanks for the phone call.
Yeah, thanks for calling, and keep watching. I personally think it's more destructive to a team to bring a new coach in the middle of the season and you put a new scheme in, and whatever momentum or ideas you have going for you are just shot right there.
Yeah, I think it depends. Jeff, let's go back into the SEC. I think one more coaching change that you're going to see is at LSU down there at Baton Rouge. Even though they got a big win against Ole Miss over the weekend, I think they're destined to make a change down there as well.
Well, you won't believe the name that's being bandied about to head down there either. Old Barry Switzer is going to come back out of retirement.
How about
possibly.
that? I'll believe it when I see it.
All right, well, let's talk about the Bowl Coalition and some possible matchups and the number of undefeated teams this year. Is that surprising? Or is the coalition working out the way we wanted it to?
I don't know if it's going to exactly work out, but I still think there's a lot of games to be played, a lot of key games to be played. Not only is there Notre Dame, Florida State, Ohio State still has a couple of critical games, one being over there at Camp Randall at Jay's stomping grounds in Wisconsin. West Virginia is still an undefeated team. I mean, we have 7 undefeated teams right now, 2 in the Southeastern Conference, Auburn and Alabama. You have West Virginia in the Big East, Notre Dame, Nebraska, Ohio State.
And FSU.
Right, FSU. So I still think a lot of things can happen right now in the national picture.
Well, in answer to your question, the Bowl Coalition only works if the Big Ten and the Big 8 don't have undefeated teams,
Right.
because they're locked into their bowl games, and so I think secretly this coalition's hoping that the Big 8 champions 7-3 and the Big 10 champions 7-3, and then they can get their dream matchup with number 1 versus number 2. But you got that matchup in the regular season, so I don't see it happening in the bowl picture. I think Nebraska's pretty much a lock to walk to the Orange Bowl, and they're going to get their first pick of opponents. So you're going to see them take the FSU Notre Dame winner. But But the Big Ten, I mean, that's up for grabs. It's not just Ohio State being undefeated and going to Wisconsin. I think Indiana.
Indiana
and
still
Illinois.
Indiana has 2
you know,
road trips, one to Columbus and one to Happy
State,
Valley
yeah.
up there at Penn State. So I don't think they're going to survive that. I think they'll end up 8-3 after they win the Old Oaken Bucket.
But
All right.
the fact remains, though, that there's, 4 or 5 teams that are still in the running for the Rose Bowl for the Big Ten.
Yeah.
It's a pretty competitive conference, and putting Penn State in there just made it even harder to figure out.
I think it has been a good year for the Big Ten, especially seeing Michigan get beat a couple of times. It creates a little credibility over there now.
I think the team that's throwing the wrench as far as the Bowl Coalition is Nebraska. They didn't lose to Colorado like they were supposed to.
Yeah, I thought they would lose that game. And, Nebraska's had a couple of good wins. They beat UCLA over there in the Rose Bowl and winning at Colorado.
So they may draw Miami or Florida State in the Orange Bowl possibly.
You know, that's almost like the Super Bowl in the AFC. It's like Nebraska goes to the Orange Bowl undefeated, then gets drubbed every other year. It's like, what's going on with the Orange Bowl thing?
All right.
You know, Jeff, one thing that is really concerning me is what the Southeastern Conference has done to themselves with the bowl setup. But I guess we got a phone call right now. Let's go ahead
let's
and
take
get
this
this,
call and
and then we'll get back to that.
Okay. Caller, you're on the air.
Hello?
Hello, go ahead. Do you have a question?
Yes, I have a statement to make regarding the Atlanta Falcons,
Sure.
if I could.
Okay.
I was all excited this year, about them. They were supposed to be very good this year, and of course I was very excited to be able to watch them, but something is absolutely wrong with that team. The way that they can just turn on and turn off, the way they play New Orleans and things of this nature, and then they just all of a sudden just go lax. I think something must be wrong with the motivation of that team, which means to me I previously liked the Falcons coach. But something must be wrong there. I don't know whether the team is actually respecting him enough, or is he motivating him enough, or are they really playing for him? Something is wrong there, and I think it may go back to management. I think they have good talent on that team, and when they play as well almost as anybody. But then all of a sudden they just go lax and go zilch. I feel like that something is wrong with the coach. And like I say, I don't know what can be done about him except fire him, but something is definitely wrong.
Okay, thanks for the phone call.
All right.
Jay, well, I just think that when you have a team that doesn't come out fired up and ready to play football, I think that it's up to the players to play. But I mean, I've got to look at the head coach, because you look at well-coached football teams, and when they go out against a lot of teams that they're supposed to beat and beat them badly at home, the good teams that are well-coached do that, plain and simple.
Yeah, I think one thing you can point to with the Falcons, and with Glanville in particular, is when they come out and the game plan works, the team looks like $1 million, okay? But when they come out and the game plan doesn't work, he cannot make on-field adjustments. He doesn't make any adjustments at halftime, and I just think it shows that he's not the caliber of head coach that, the winners are. I think he's showed in the past that he's a good defensive coordinator, and like this gentleman caller said, it's time for him to move on. Even though he likes him, there's just no motivation there. The team, how can they be flat against Tampa Bay? That's just bizarre.
I'm going to stick up for Jerry just a little bit. I don't particularly like him either, but Ken Herrick may have to take some of the blame as far as talent evaluation and some really questionable draft picks.
No doubt about it.
Now, that's a good point, because Ty brought up the fact that you got to get a GM in here, and that's part of why I think Bobby Ross will stay put in San Diego, because he and Beathard get along great. They're always on the same page. Now, Glanville will say, yeah, we really like this Whitfield guy or whatever, on draft day, and then when he misses a block, Glanville comes out in the paper and says, hey, I didn't want that guy. He was picked by the guy over my head, Well, that's the kind of crap that just snowballs in the locker room and the clubhouse or whatever, and tears the team apart. And he's been doing that ever since he got here. He likes the guys they draft until he gets them on the field, then all of a sudden they make a mistake, and rather than say, hey, I didn't have him prepared, he says, well, I didn't want to pick the guy.
Right.
Well, that's just part of his sideshow, I guess.
And it may be growing old with the players, and they're not motivated by him anymore. So, anyhow, back to the SEC. There's been some talk of some of the coaches wanting to cut back to 7 conference games. How is that possible? Would they do that?
Oh, I would really like to see that done. First of all, you play everyone on their own side, which is 5 games, and then you can sit there and play 2 people on the other side. You can rotate them, both of them, or keep a continual tradition going on like Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, Auburn. Personally, I would like to see the Southeastern Conference do that. I think they've really limited themselves and some of their teams, because you can't get national home-and-home football games. Georgia and Florida are 2 schools that can't do it. I think Florida would really like to play Miami home-and-home, but they can't do it because they have the neutral site game in Jacksonville, and then you have to get 6 home games to balance your budget with your athletic department. So I think it creates a lot more flexibility and get a lot more exposure for your program to say, if a Florida, Georgia can get out there and play a USC or a Colorado. And in the early 80s, Florida did get USC to come down there to Gainesville, but down there in 1983. You need those types of things for your conference to be able to show yourself to the country, because ABC comes out and regionalizes everything. So if you're just going to play conference games, you're only going to be seen in the southeastern part of the country. I think it would be a great move, and a great young mind like Phil Fulmer brought that up, and I like him.
I'm on the other side of this issue. I think the fact that they upped the conference games has made it more a legitimate conference. I think that the Big Ten is a good example. They play everybody. Now they have too many teams with adding Penn State.
And they don't win national championships.
Well, Alabama won the national championship last year because they had a tougher conference schedule. And I think that as it progresses in this East-West thing, and they have a title game, that's just gravy. I think the SEC has been progressing towards a better conference. When I first moved to the South, and they got to pick and choose their teams, and some played 4 conference games and some played 7, that didn't let the national people get involved in the conference. I think a lot of people looked at, when Alabama was 4-0 in the conference and Georgia was 6-1 in the conference, and they'd go, well, how can you tell who's better in the conference? Now that it's a legitimate conference, I think they do get more national recognition, even though like Ty said, the games aren't played nationally, they're only played regionally. That's just the almighty dollar sign and TV screwing things up again.
No, I really like the intersectional games. I think it does a lot for the game. I think one of the big controversial issues is who's actually number 1. And when you can sit there and play intersectional games and see how you fare against other conferences, you can get a better idea of who the stronger conferences are. No, I like intersectional play. I'd like to see more of it.
Well, there's room for intersectional play.
No, there's not either.
With 7 conference games.
Yeah, there is. If you go from 8 conference games to 7 conference games, plus you have that championship game between the winners of the East and West, yeah, I think that'll pretty much decide who the best team in the conference is. I'd like the idea of 7 conference games.
All right, well, guys, we're not going to decide this tonight, so let's go ahead and talk. Is Georgia Tech improving? They beat Duke this week pretty badly.
Well, if you call giving up 500 yards to Duke improving, then I guess that's improving. Here it is. Duke moved the ball on them. I think Tech still has a lot of trouble with their defense. The only reason I think they had that big of a win is because of turnovers. Duke had 4 fumbles. I think that's a young team, but I think on the other hand, Georgia Tech needs to make some changes or do something defensively because that Duke club is a bad team. And I think this ACC conference is really down this year. I don't think that's a good conference. I mean, you take Florida State, and that's it. I just don't think too many other teams are really that outstanding. And to sit there and to be that average in a conference that's not very good this year, I really question how good they are.
Well,
I think they should have a much better record this year.
I don't think they're very good at all. I agree with Ty. They made a lot of mistakes. They're in a weak conference and they're not doing very well. But they're taking their lumps, and to make a lot of changes now would only make them take lumps next year. If they stick, like Donnie Davis said on the show, if they stick with the young players, sure they're going to make mistakes, but you got to learn from your mistakes. Okay, I don't see them making the same mistakes over and over again. There's a movement right now within the Tech alumni to try and dump Davis and go to Stroman. And I think that would be a mistake. I mean, they've groomed Davis for this quarterback job, and so he overthrows 5-6 receivers in a row. You don't jerk him out of the game and go, you stink, because then he'll never be any good. You try to work with him, and I think most of the players on the team outside of that Williams and defensive lineman, they have are pretty young, and they're going to make mistakes. As long as they keep making aggressive mistakes, I think that they'll show some improvement next year. Because I don't see the conference, like Ty said, it's weak this year, but I don't see it getting any better next year.
Yeah.
It may be just as weak next year, so that if you can learn from your mistakes, you can finish second behind Florida State.
I think some people would spotlight Tech's problems as being inexperience on their assistant coaching staff. There have been some fingers pointed at the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I think some of the Tech people are really unhappy with the defensive staff over there.
All right, well, I know we don't have too much time left. Let's talk about a couple of these pro games this week. Denver and who they're playing at Cleveland this week.
All right, now that's an important game. Here it is. Kansas City's atop the division here out there in the West, and Denver's one game behind. And Kansas City, I think, can be had. If they have Joe Montana, they're really a good football team. But, I mean, he's getting hurt.
That's the question. Is he back this week or not?
I don't know. I don't know how that hamstring's going to heal. No one knows.
He seems to re-injure it every week.
Yeah, and so if he doesn't play, I just don't think Kansas City is that good of a team.
Well, they say about Montana, they say that, even though he's a multi-million-dollar player, that dollar's worth more now in Kansas City because you can get 4 quarters for $1, but you can't get 4 quarters out of Montana.
Well, I just think that if Denver stays within striking distance, that they'll be in good shape because I just don't think Montana's going to be there the whole year.
But let me tell you, Cleveland's a pretty good team. People have sold them short all year long, and then they were almost laughed at in that Pittsburgh game. They said Pittsburgh was rolling and they had the best defense, and you can't. Bill Belichick is a great coach, okay, and he learned from Parcells. Keep the game close, run the ball, smash it up the middle, play good defense. You're in every game like that. So I think Cleveland will probably win because Denver's a notorious bad road team. And I think that Kansas City probably will, try to open up a margin, like Ty said, because of the Montana factor. They're going to have to maintain a couple-game lead.
Kansas City's got the Monday night game this week.
Yeah, Jay, what's wrong with your Packers team? The 4-3, I thought they were better than this, and I thought they'd win more football games.
I think they're a good football team. They lost 2 games on the last play of the darn game, and the defense is there every week. Okay, and if, like we've talked before, defense, that's what you got to have in the NFL. And your offense can sputter but if you got a good defense, you'll be in every game. And I look for the Pack to win this game on Monday night if Montana doesn't play.
Now, quickly before we go, let's get a pick on the fight here, Jeff.
All right, I'm going to go with Evander since he's a local boy, and I don't know much about the fighting. So.
Okay, Jay?
I'll take Holyfield just because he said that he fought a stupid fight, and I said that last time. And if he realizes it's a mistake he made and he doesn't try to slug it out with Bo, then he'll win it.
I'll take Bo in a decision.
All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for tonight. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Thanks for the nice conversation here. And we'll be back next Tuesday night at 9 o'clock, same channel, so tune in. Thanks.